Hi, how's it going? I'm Marlena. Thanks for wandering by. So today I'm doing one of those types of videos that's more like a ramble podcasty type thing where I'm not gonna be showing a bunch of stuff. I'm just gonna sit here and chat to you. And I have lots of ideas. So if you are like, need to do chores or you're driving or whatever, this is a good one for that. I don't often not show you things, but today I just had like all this stuff in my mind and I just want to get it out. So the big question for this video is, do I want to demystify the tarot? And so the quick and easy answer is yes. And the other quick and easy answer is no. So I started thinking about this because I'm reading Rachel Pollack's book, A Walk Through the Forest of Souls. And I'm not going to get into like the nitty gritty and things like that of what's in that book. I've literally only read maybe the first 20, 30 pages, something like that. And I've had to just stop. I have to stop like every couple of lines and like, because it makes me think so much that like I need to, like I'm taking my time with it. It's one of those that's like, it's just like sumptuous that way. And what, you know, one of the things that it brought up for me is this idea of modern tarot, like, and that's, you know, what we're doing, what I'm doing, modern tarot. And I was thinking about the tarot through my lens now versus my lens when I first ever heard about tarot when I was 15 years old, maybe younger, 13, 14, 15. Anyway, and like the attraction to the tarot back then was 100% about that it was mysterious, that it was mystical, mysterious, a secret, something taboo, something that I didn't know about, something that my parents wouldn't approve of, something outside of my, you know, religious upbringing, or that was seen as like something not, you know, not okay by my religious upbringing. That was a big draw for me as a teenager for the tarot. And I didn't really have much of, I mean, I didn't have at all an understanding of like the occult. And I still don't have like a wealth of knowledge when it comes to esoterics and the occult. I'm learned stuff and I like to learn. So that's the other thing about this demystifying the tarot bit. Like, so that whole teenager thing about me being drawn to the mystery is the reason why I would answer no to that question. But one of the reasons why I would answer yes to do I want to demystify the tarot is because of my education background and because I'm, you know, because ultimately I'm a teacher, and I've been a teacher and educator in various different forms throughout my career. But in any case, that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is that I want to make knowledge about things accessible to anybody. So the tarot is just another topic, or could be seen from my, you know, like my teacher lens as another topic that should be accessible, you know, something that should be accessible to everyone. And because we, you know, this term gatekeeping gets tossed around quite a bit. And like, if you think about like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and like secret societies, like that's ultimate gatekeeping, right? And there, you know, when I'm reading Rachel Pollack, like I've read about tarot history before. I've gotten like bits and pieces of things, but it's not been like in one shot, you know? And that's something that I think has been fascinating about my tarot learning and my tarot journey is that like I came to it and like, I don't know, like maybe many of you did with this like, you know, like this like, ooh, you know, what is this about? Sort of like, I know that this thing is kind of seen in this very mysterious, occult, taboo, you know, mystifying kind of way. And I came to it like that, and then the first thing I did was get a tarot deck and learn, and I wanted to learn the 78 cards. And I don't know about you, but I wanted to do it like as fast as I could. Like my first like run through, like I wanted to run through all 78 and get like a foundation, you know. I don't know, that's just how I rolled with it. And I wasn't like, I was just focused on the card, the deck, the books that I got, and I wasn't really reaching sort of beyond that to kind of learn more about the history of the decks, of the most famous decks, about the history of the Golden Dawn, about the history of Tarot and Tarot de Marseille, and you know, all that stuff. And that came in like bits and chunks and pieces along the way. I do remember though, when I first started getting into the idea of tarot, I was like, what is this whole thing about? And I just like hit Wikipedia, you know, and started reading all kinds of stuff. And just like it was just like and I'm still doing it. I'm still just like inhaling all of this information. And I think like demystifying also kind of brings deconstructing into the mix. And I think as we've moved from like the early 1900s, right? So when or you want to go back to, you know, Italy in the 15th century or 14th or 15th century. I'm terrible with the dates of the tarot history stuff. But in any case, if you want to look at the evolution of where tarot has been and where it is now, and like what is happening now in tarot is fascinating. Are we deconstructing and demystifying the tarot? Are we, and I'm sure that's one, I feel like this is one of those questions that a lot of people ask because it's become trendy, I guess is a word, or something that more and more people are learning, whereas before it wasn't. Although I can tell you, like, maybe it feels that way in like the sphere of the tarot community, because once you immerse yourself into something like this, like I have, many of us have, I don't really see outside of it. It feels like all the people know all the things in here, and like it's something that we think about and talk about, and it's that there's this conversation here about it. But like in the rest of like out there in my like life, outside of, you know, the outside of tarot community, or my life adjacent to, or my, you know, people who are not into tarot, basically is what I'm saying. I think they still have the myths and the notions and the, you know, mystery and sort of taboo feeling around it. And like, I'm not sure that I want to completely deconstruct that. And what I don't want to happen is I don't want it to become oversimplified. But I'm sure that I did a lot of oversimplifying first learning the tarot. I'm sure I still do oversimplify card meanings. I'm sure I also like overcomplicate card meanings. I'm sure I overcomplicate readings in general. And a big part of what I do when I'm interpreting the cards is deconstructing them and you know, taking a look at all the different layers, whether they be esoteric, like Kabbalah, tarot and astrology, correspondences and things like that. And sometimes I'm just looking at the image and reading intuitively. And sometimes I'm like, I feel like I don't even have my eyes open and I'm just in the essence of the card reading that I've kind of become very intimately connected with. So I don't feel like I even have my eyes open sometimes. I feel that way a lot about life in general, but that's just a me thing. So what was I saying? Oh my gosh, I'm so rambly. I hope I'm making sense to you guys, because the question is, do I want to demystify tarot? Yes and no. I do want people to feel like it is accessible. I feel that way about poetry too. Like, I don't want people to think that poetry is this thing that you cannot access. It's like knowledge, you know, and that's the idea behind the, you know, the secrets, the arcana, the keys, you know, the secrets of all the knowledge of the universe and the knowledge of everything. That's what, you know, ultimately the Golden Dawn believes about the tarot. And do I? I mean, yes and no. And yes, and no. I'm just like, it's at the same time, yes and no, because it's there. I do think it's in there, but how, you know, what do I know? I'm just a little teeny tiny thing in the universe. But it's fascinating to think about. I just don't want to feel like the magic that the magic is gone by deconstructing and demystifying the tarot. And I think that's what, you know, I think that's what worries or concerns some people maybe. I don't know. You guys can tell me if you want to answer this question too. Because I don't know, I don't think you can. Like, I don't think you can take the magic out of it. It hasn't, you know, for me, I'm still new-ish to tarot. So the freshness of it is still very present in my life. I don't know if that'll change over the years. I've heard about people needing to take tarot breaks and things like that. But I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the magic, or maybe it has to do with too much of the magic. I haven't felt like the magic is gone, and I don't know if I can define what I think the magic of it is. It's one of those things where it's like, yes, of course, this contains, you know, everything, and it contains nothing. I'm always doing that sort of thing to myself, where I'm playing that, like, that macrocosm, microcosm, big, little, you know, extremes, dualities game. And the answer is always like both. The answer is always like both for me. And I don't know. I hope I'm making sense to you guys, because what, like, ultimately, I feel like perhaps in the, you know, in modern tarot, contemporary tarot, what we're doing right now with the tarot, it has moved, like, I've talked about this before, in my tarot generation gap, because I have this like legacy, this like inheritance of tarot from, not from my family, but from my partner's family. And like, just, you know, like a generation or two generations going back with divination, like taking a look at the way that I imagine like his grandmother or great-grandmother, was it great-grandmother? Anyway, I have great-grandmother's cards too. Anyway, to, you know, see how they engaged with divination and to see how then that evolved from playing cards and like Book of Destiny fortune telling cards are things that I have too that's made me think about this. And then the tarot that my mother-in-law practiced, and the tarot meanings, you know, that she didn't get from a book, because she learned from someone. She had a mentor, and those ideas that you have to have a mentor, and those ideas, I've talked about this before, that you have to be gifted your first tarot deck, and like all those things that we like are saying now that we dispel, like that's a myth, and that's, you know, and that's because we want, and I get it, because I want that too. Like I want to make, you know, I want tarot to be accessible to everyone. But at the same time, those things about it, that it was this mystery for me to solve and unlock, and this puzzle and this riddle and this, like, you know, riddle of the meaning of life, you know? I'm getting so poof. But anyway, that's what attracted me to it. And do I want to get rid of that sort of, you know, that sort of feeling around it, that vibe, for lack of a better word? No, I don't. And yes, I do, because I want to now, like for my daughter, I want to pass on this, you know, the practice of tarot. And I definitely have demystified it for her, I think. But I hope I haven't taken the magic away. And I also think that there's a part, you know, part and parcel of folks that are reading tarot with a very like psychological lens of self-growth. You know, a lot of people say that, you know, that might be seen as demystifying it as well. And I read it, I mean, I read the tarot in so many different ways. Like I've been doing nothing but experimenting with how I read it from the moment I started reading the tarot cards. Psychological, you name it, like all different kinds of everything. But I think that might be a different video if you want me to like ramble about like my experimentation with things that I call big tarot, little tarot, fast tarot, slow tarot. I've been wanting to talk about that too, but I'll save that for another time. Basically, what I wanted to say, and I don't know that I've come to any kind of conclusion about this, is that it's still yes and no. I do want tarot to be accessible. I do like the idea of deconstructing things and systems and rebuilding them, and you know, kind of sussing out meaning, and you know, and then kind of like deciding, no, that's not what we think that means, as like a, you know, as like a collective, and then like rebuilding that meaning, or placing my own meaning upon things. Like but I also really love like mystery and tradition, and learning history, and where things, you know, source material, and where things came from, and integrating that into my, you know, into my knowledge, and sort of accepting what these secret societies believed, that they believed it, you know, not necessarily that I do. But I also really like the mood of something being mysterious. And I think even if I'm not doing like the whole moody candle lighting, crystal setting out, you know, reading, and layering in all the esoterics, and thinking about the Kabbalah and this and that and the other thing when I'm doing the reading, sometimes it's just like I'm sitting on my couch and I'm watching TV, and I'm asking, I'm flipping through a tarot deck in my lap, and I'm asking, you know, maybe not even asking a question consciously, maybe kind of subconsciously I am. And then I'm pulling a couple cards or a card, and then it is a mystery, you know, that it answered me the way that it did. And there is, you know, something so beautiful about the story of the tarot. And that's, you know, to kind of circle back to Rachel Pollack's book, which I know I haven't even like scratched the surface of what I'm gonna learn and get from that book, is that it is, you know, it is that story that's in the tarot that I can identify with the mystery. And it's not yet completely demystified because I'm still trying to figure it out. You know, and maybe I never, and very likely I never will. Very likely we never will. And it will always be mysterious. And it will always have meaning evolve. But the piece about it being accessible to more people rather than like in this like little, you know, secret society. And even then, like just making it accessible doesn't mean that then even somebody who's learned or, you know, an academic can wrap their minds around some of the esoteric stuff. Because you know, like I studied philosophy in college and I'm still like, you know, I go to read the Book of Thoth and I'm like, say what? What, Crowley, what are you talking about? And that's fine, you know, like, reminds me of like Hegel and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool, that's fine. That's a language thing too, I think, with books that are older. But it's also a purposefully, I think, purposefully convoluted, purposefully just out there, you know? I think a little bit like that about the pictorial key as well, although the pictorial key is a little bit more, it feels a little bit more matter of fact too. That's the Arthur Edward Waite book, if for those of you that may not know. Anyway, where have I taken myself on this particular ramble? Nowhere, everywhere, all around town and back again. I think that modern tarot, I think I'm just interested to continue the ride and like see where we're going, how we're deconstructing it and demystifying it or not. There seems to be a very strong pull towards the old ways and the old gods and the I don't know, ancient things. For me, I'm not sure if any of you out there feel that, but there seems to be something shifting in terms of the way that folks are thinking about these very, you know, like about what has meaning. And so that often leads to, you know, spirituality and divinity and deity and things like that, which which obviously is very connected to what I'm talking about here with the tarot, and demystifying it. Anyway, I've talked now and rambled for 24 minutes and I don't have any answers, which is fine. I think my idea about this started because I wasn't sure if, I think I was looking at myself for an answer. Like I was trying to say like, no, we do need to demystify it. Tarot does, you know, we need to have like, they're right answers. But like in my mind, like, who is that? That's definitely not me. I never think that there are right or wrong answers to almost anything. Except I do love learning the way, I do love learning about people that do. So like I have trouble with absolutes, but I was just about to say, I absolutely love hearing about people who do believe in absolutes. And I like reading about it. And I don't know, the coolest thing about the beginning of this book, this Rachel Pollack book, is the way that she talks about that the tarot is not fixed, that it's, I don't know how many, I'm sure I could look up the number of how many different combinations of cards you could come up with. I wonder what that number is. Oh, you guys tell me. But it's always an ever-changing, which is the way I think about, you know, life in general. Always an ever-changing, but that's the constant of it. And yeah, I mean, there's just, I could just go on philosophically, but I won't. My light is changing, so the shadows are starting to cast. And yeah, so I'll leave you with that. I'd love, love, love to hear if you want to demystify the tarot, or if you're like me, that's like yes and no. In some ways I do, in some ways I don't. And I just want to keep, ultimately, I just want to keep learning and keep working with the tarot, and that it's a part of my life is, has definitely added value to it, for sure, like a lot of value to it. So, okay, so that's it. So you tell me what you think. Do you want to demystify the tarot? What do you think about, you know, all the rambly bits of things that I just said? And yeah, thanks for sticking around with me. And I hope that you have a beautiful, wonderful day. Bye.